I don't know where to start, Lance. I mean,
Yeah, there's just so much here.
There's a lot.
a lot of paper.
Okay.
Hi, Kate. There you are. I think you ought to sit
Lance,
up here near
Did you give this
Lance.
to us? Okay, I'll have to look through it. I don't know, it was just sitting here. I'll have to look through it.
I mean, we just mentioned that Kate Sherwood is now the chair of the Winchester Center Historical Association.
How do you know?
You told me.
But I haven't been officially told yet.
Oh,
But I
you
forget
told
anything,
me.
so yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We have a relationship too.
I'm going to start recording.
Yeah, his
Give me-
mother and I were born in the same,
Everybody on the same page as me?
Yeah, I think so.
our mother shared it, Charlotte.
Yeah.
March in
All right,
1950.
Sheila stepped out of
Been
the
friends
room.
ever since.
And started.
All right. We are starting the meeting today on Thursday, July 18th, 2024, the Historic Commission. I need a roll call, starting with Virginia.
Oh, I'm here, Virginia.
Sheila stepped out. Deb Kessler.
Lynn Kessler.
Amish Lutrus.
Okay. And we have agenda reviews. Anybody want to add or subtract anything from the agenda or modify? No, looks like nothing. Everybody's happy with that?
And then I think everybody's,
Yeah, appears to be.
Vote of
Okay.
silence.
Vote of silence means yes.
all right.
All right, moving on to approval of the previous minutes from June 13th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Hamish moves.
Well, you weren't here, Linda.
No, I wasn't, so Pam.
Do you want to approve
Oh, approve the agenda?
the minutes?
Oh, the minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I ought to read them, huh?
Did you second that?
Next page.
Virginia's reading the minutes, so.
Oh, okay, so wait for a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see this. There were so many papers. Let's see. Okay, approve.
Approved, all right, so. Need a second, vote in favor or negative? Okay, unanimous? All right. Moving on to correspondence, to repair the undeliverable letters to 112 Newfield Road and 153 Chapel Road.
Those are ones I sent them, resent to their New York addresses, even though they're in town, but they don't have a receptacle on their doors.
Right, okay. So we start-
And I gave you the, Virginia.
Yes, I have
I don't
them.
know if,
Already,
well, I'll keep them, okay, I'll say I'll keep them in our file
oh,
if you already took care of it.
yeah, I already took care of it.
Okay, any other correspondence? None, all right. Let's move-
Well-
do-
Correspondence would be from Stuart Pollen.
All right, do you want to talk about that?
Regarding the potential for doing a 19th century, early 20th century photographic exhibit, and including his collection of photographic equipment. So we're just in the discussion stages of how we might be able to bring all that together. So we've been talking and talking about venues and just ideas at this point.
Okay, Stuart, do you have anything to add to that? Do you have anything to add to that?
Not really, we need a nice venue in place for, would be, exhibits for a day or two, maybe a month, but, you know, we're in the security of the, camera
Sure.
equipment and things like that, so, very small thing, there's a little vial of gold chloride used to gold print, that's about the size of a dime. So we thought that could kind of disappear.
Grillegs, yeah.
Some ways it's good.
Okay.
we're just discussing, so,
Okay,
all right?
new business. Discussion for the Wayside Sign, Exhibit Signage Committee meeting with Soldiers Monument Commission members, East End Park Historic District to follow up sidewalk.
If you don't mind me taking over for a moment, I
Nope.
would like to
Take away.
introduce my colleague, Tom. I don't know if you guys met before. So just background knowledge, for the grant that the town received to do these signage project, Tom and I are now pretty much the lead for this project when Josh left us. So we're working with two different vendors, but now kind of in coordination with each other, which has been great. I'm gonna share something with you at the end of the meeting that you'll be the first ones to see. But what we wanna follow up with you is about the Wayside exhibits, because Paul Trevido, is now looking basically, we're at the point where we need the information to move forward. So I gave him the materials that you supplied for me, thank you. So he's already started working on the 2 signs for the Soldiers Monument Park. He may have follow-up questions, but we're gonna start that conversation. What I'd really like to do is, and I think we have to do it in a subcommittee, smaller. I'd like to have about 3 or maybe potentially 3 of you and 3 of the Architectural Review Committee to start getting together so we can work on these things, specific signs. And what I'd like to focus, if possible, next Thursday on East End Park, because we've all acknowledged that that's the site that makes a lot of sense for signage. Public Works is on board, town manager's on board, so now we just gotta okay, what do we wanna highlight at the park? So that's the stage we're at, and I was hoping, like I said, maybe next Thursday, if the weather cooperates, we could get a small group for an hour and just be at the park and make those decisions. And I know we've been talking about this for months with our group, but we're kind of getting to the point where rubber's meeting the road. So, yep, I want to move this forward. You know, it's hard. Tom and I are the only 2 for the staff that have really picked this up, and it's not like the main thing that either of us do. So now we definitely need some participation, and obviously Pete hopefully will be willing to get like a core group now to help move this along.
So do we have a time in place or anything like that, or is it
It's
just
still
open?
pretty open, but now we're getting to the point where we're out of the conceptual range and we're like, so these are some of the examples that Paul has for the signage that he's done in the past. And if there's anything that grabs you as a specific style, we can let him know. But again, we can do all that in an email, but I just wanted you to take a look at it. So he gave us a few examples. He just followed up with Tom and I like 10 minutes ago. He had another email that I will circulate. And
I would think it would depend on content as to what style we would want to go with.
Yeah, and-
Some areas in town might, provide certain content that would fit better on one design than another, is that?
Mhm.
Or would he want to keep it consistent all through town?
I think there would be some consistency. This is what we were talking about with like the color scheme and stuff. But basically what we're getting for feedback, and I know Steve too had concern, what would be the size? Well, I think what Paul is what you dictate what the narrative and the photos that you want, and then he works around that to make it flow and it be integrated.
What I gave you for the designs is really pretty much based on the lower right picture, okay? Rearrange it a little bit, but that's the basic theme. 2 different stories, but related, one subordinate to the other. As far as consistency goes, we do need to have consistent colors across all the signs in town. Consistent typeface.
No, but again, there's sort of a color scheme going on with our wayfinding that will likely be incorporated into this signage as well. That was the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago with both of the graphic designers.
Okay.
So again, a lot of flexibility. It's really, I think, what we want to focus on, and then let them just kind of present us something.
All right, so basically we need 3 people from this commission to be working on that.
I know you guys are sort of the subcommittee already.
I
so
know.
I'm gonna maybe nominate you.
Who
We need
would-
one more.
Who would like to join us?
I just have to check my calendar, but it depends on what time and whatever, because I'm not sure when my husband has an appointment down at the VA.
Well, it will be an ongoing sort of thing, so I think if you're, you want to be in for the, whether it's that meeting in particular, but just, would you, be interested in being in?
Yeah, I would be interested in doing that.
All right.
So,
Okay, so we
You
have
gotta
to
start, okay?
be in Virginia.
That's great. So I will reach Stacy Vario, who is from, wait a minute, Historic Preservation or? Preservation Connecticut, that's right. That's right, that's right. So her and Mary, I think we've met Mary before, right? And you were unfortunately were out sick. So now we got, oh, and Mary's here too. Yay! And I'm wonderful that we got the Zoom to work, so that's
Can we do
terrific.
something
Can we
with
get the
volume?
volume?
More than volume, no?
We have no volume.
The answer's no.
Can you go into audio settings?
Yep.
Oh,
Kind of like when we were first getting organized. Yeah, and unfortunately, not anybody except for me can really hear you because it's all coming through there's no screen, there's no speakers on the screen.
Do you know where to go for the audio settings?
No. Do
On
you?
the lower left, see where it says audio?
Yep,
Get that up arrow, audio settings.
yep.
Now, the one on top, output level.
Yeah, go way over.
Yeah.
There you go,
Try
see
that.
that
Dang
works.
it.
That should do it.
All right, Stacy, try saying something again. Hey, that's better. Thanks. So, we're gonna be doing our strategic planning, and I really appreciate you coming for it. We just have a little bit of business beforehand, which was the signage. We're kind of stepping into America's 250th, which I'm assuming you're a part of as well, correct? Okay. And we actually are very fortunate tonight to have Mark, who is the executive director for the Torrington Historical Society. So the goal is we would like to partner with them and make sure we're not stepping on toes as we schedule events as we get closer and closer to 2026. So we have some pretty cool partners, and again, thank you for being a part of it. I don't know, Hamish, if you want to just kind of step in, we can
Sure.
jump into that first.
Report's quick. I just wanted to ask a question before we got in, and that is, under new business, it says A is discussion for Wayside Exhibit Signage Subcommittee. Have we covered that already?
That was just now.
All right,
Yep,
so
that's
so
what
that
we're
part
gonna
of
do.
it is okay? All right, so it can be, all right, and A, under subcommittee reports, discussion for Wayside Exhibit Signage, have we covered that as well?
Not yet, we haven't done
Technically,
it.
no.
All right, do you want to cover it all as one, since you're talking about signage, or?
Well, it's really these two things that and I can ask Shane to make some copies so you guys can see it. It's the two signs that are gonna be installed at the
Gotcha.
monument.
Okay.
And I know that the Soldier Monument Commission has been working on it for a while, but this is basically it.
That's
This
it.
is done,
That's it for now,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, there's not much more to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'd
Okay.
say we kind of discussed that.
All right.
Okay, good.
All right, concerning CT 250, I was at a meeting on the 12th, which had the local committees and organizations across the state. There were about 32 people there at the meeting, and one of the useful things that came out of it was actually that, two things actually. One is that we were in touch with the Litchfield CT 250 people, who are pretty well organized and on their way. On the 23rd, I just got off of the email before I left the house. I'll probably be attending their meeting, because they're looking to cooperate with area people in CT 250. And they do seem, they've got a financial subcommittee, so it seems to me that somebody's been doing some work over there, a lot of it. However, concerning CT 250 itself, just a couple of things I wanted to say. The first one is, it appears that some people in the state are just going with any possible event that they have going on in town, they're putting up as a CT 250. I'm not sure exactly why, but already people are beginning to label them, and some of them are like, you know, hay rides on the weekend and stuff. They don't seem to really have a lot to do with the 250th. But it may help us to get grant funding if we have a lot of events under that umbrella. So I just wanted to point that out. And the second thing was, there was some fairly useful information. I had two documents that were created for today's meeting. And since we were talking about just kind of funding stuff, I thought you might want to have one. One of them is from the National Park Service. It's got a photograph on it. And if nothing else, we got a great word out of it, semi-quincentennial. I think that's fantastic. But I don't know. It's kind of weird. The 250th anniversary. The National Park Service is sponsoring grant programs for people who wish to name or expand historical register, historical district stuff, and that's what this document is talking about. Basically, what you find is documents two-sided, so if you don't have writing on both sides, you might want to pick up another copy. But basically, it tells you who can apply for the grant, and we qualify for them quite well. What they fund, and a lot of what we've been talking about in the meeting so far is pretty much covered by this. And then, of course, it just tells you the kind of the deadlines and amounts a little bit. This is a fairly high-powered program that National Park Service tends to put in a lot of money. And that, I think they were looking at $7 million for 2024. That's probably gonna go up in 2025. I would imagine there are a lot of people who are gonna be putting in these kinds of applications over the next year. But I just wanted to leave that there for the folks who are doing the historical district stuff in town, so that they might have just one more resource. Connecticut Humanities is also sponsoring a series of grants that are specifically designed for CT 250 work, and that is the other document. It's just basically one-sided. It does have a little bit more on the other side, but these are the types of grants that we can get, and some of them I think might be pretty applicable to our experience. Quick grants, which as you can see the sample types of projects, they'll tell you the award size, project duration, the deadlines. The only thing about these grants is that all of them have one condition that we may find a little bit difficult to meet, which is one-to-one matching. So if we want $1,000 from the state, we're gonna have to produce $1,000 to get that. That might be a problem. However, since your lowest award size is $250, it might be that some of the lower end stuff we might very well be able to match. But these are actually pretty specific to what we're doing as far as CT 250 possible events. Besides that, basically the only thing I wanted to say was that I've been in touch with a couple of folks in scouting in the area. It's kind of proving a little bit like getting in touch with the Winchester Historical Society. Everybody wants to work with you. You get in touch with them and nobody wants to work with you anymore. It's kind of odd. And so I'm waiting right now on a call back from a couple of people in Winstead. There are 2 Boy Scout, 1 Cub Scout troop here, and I'm waiting now on a call back from the lady who's the CEO of Girl Scouts in Connecticut. I don't know when I'll get that. We'll see what happens. I might just start bothering her a little bit, but you cross lines easily with that. People get a little bit irritated. But at any rate, there was also yesterday an administrative meeting at the Mashantucket Pequot Museum, but it's the same administrative meeting that takes place all over the state, which means that they said that you really don't have to go to it. If it's in Mashantucket today, it might be in Winchester next time. So I think we should be okay with that as far as it goes. And I'll let you guys know what happens when I go to the Litchfield meeting on the 23rd. It looks to me like if Litchfield is looking for partners, and they've got, I believe it was Warren and Kent, is that correct, Deb?
I think so.
All right. I think that's also a pretty fruitful way that we could go, especially if we're partnering with Torrington, because Litchfield doesn't seem to have kind of partnered up with them either, so I'm hoping that we can get something going there. But at any rate, that's the report for CT 250.
Can I just give a suggestion? I know you don't want hay rides.
I don't mind hay rides. I'm just saying that,
Yeah,
you
but,
can
you
put
know,
virtually
but
anything up there,
One of the things that would be appropriate would be the Hessian movement, the prisoners of war going over the Old North Road. And about 50 years ago, I think, they did a program where they brought busloads of people to going over it. And I don't know if they stopped at different maybe places or what. I'd have to see if I can find the information on that again. But that was done, maybe it wasn't 50 years ago, but it was close to that, and it was about the American Revolution. And but a lot of people wanted to go on that and did go. So I don't see a problem with doing that again. The Old North Road, and of course I've always loved writing about the troops. They come one way when they're going to Boston, and then when they didn't get to go back to England or Germany or whatever, they ended up getting sent down to Virginia, so they ended up coming back. and they did not have very complimentary things to say about Winchester's roads, because they were corduroy roads. So it was, one of them wrote in his diary in German, and, you know, that would be cool to have somebody read that about it. I think it's something like that. Would be not a major production, but one of the things
Yeah.
that we could possibly do, repeat that.
If they had put hay in the wagons, it probably would have been more comfortable for them, so maybe the
Yeah,
hay
really.
ride idea works, you know.
Yeah, I'd rather do that than have buses go over anyways.
At least we don't have corduroy roads anymore.
No.
All right, thank you, Hamish.
Sure, thank you.
So,
Well, Stacy, I don't know, are there any communities that are already working with that have started their 250th planning?
Well, our deputy director, Chris Egret, is the person from our organization who is attending all of those, larger meetings. So he reports back to us, but I haven't personally attended those.
What
So
is
I'm
his
not sure.
name?
I do know that
Chris Seaver?
there are quite a few people, like in Weathersfield, for instance, they're starting their planning. I did hear a little bit about Litchfield, so, yeah, it's ramping up. You know, people are trying to get things in place. It sounds like you all are ahead of the curve a little bit, which is good.
Trying to be. Cool. Yeah, and I know Mark can't stay for long, but is there anything that Torrington's talked about yet?
Actually, you're way ahead of Torrington.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You're cutting edge compared to where we are. But I'm gonna go back and report to the mayor and see if the mayor can establish a group that will start working on this. And if there's any way that we can work together, I'm sure that there'd be an interest there in that. I know that from my point of view, one of the things that we'll be advocating for is something about John Brown, because of his firm belief in the tenets of the Declaration of Independence, you know, that all are created equal. So I know that we'll be working on that angle as something to do for this celebration, but I don't know how that's gonna take form yet.
You might be interested, one of our subcommittees is about the Underground Railroad.
Ah,
And we're doing some of that.
I've worked with Mark before. I know he doesn't remember because it's, I don't even want to say how many years. I was going to St. Joseph's and I had to do a project to graduate. And I love the Hotchkiss Filer house. I just love that house. And I wanted to do the architecture and I wanted to, and then I was in the main room where they normally have the Christmas tree or whatever, and they have the beautiful porcelain stuff. We were on the floor looking to see if there were vents to heat the room or if it was closed, and they even gave me the blueprints of the house. I mean, this is a great guy to work with. He is so generous with his time, especially for somebody that was an undergraduate, and, you know, I really appreciated it.
I hope you got an A on that paper.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Good credit.
Oh, yeah, I graduated summa cum laude, thank you.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, is that all we have on the 250th?
Yeah.
Seems to be at this
Uh,
point?
For me,
For now,
anyway, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, for now?
all right.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, actually, could I add one thing?
Yeah.
One thing also is that I was talking with Ben at the library, and we were talking about the possibility of doing this month in Winchester history. It looks like we might be kind of set with that event. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah, it would be easy enough to do, certainly.
Right, so, yeah, and that was the only thing I wanted to add, that, you know, I'm happy to be working with the library. I have a feeling that it's gonna be important as we go on and take on much more importance, but.
So can you tell us a little bit about this day in Winston, or?
Sure, basically, what we were thinking was, because of the fact that we have copies of the Winstead Herald from about, what, 1855 or so, 1853? 1854, that we could do basically kind of in conjunction with the Winchester Historical Society, if I can succeed in wheedling some artifacts out of them, to basically do a display on, and I was just saying, you know, this month in Winchester history, it could be changed month to month if you wanted to. that we could just show people what was going on at some point in history. You know, we have basically 1853, 54 to the present, and you just do basically anything you want. You know, it would just depend on what kind of materials we had to hand. But libraries generally are pretty well equipped to do this kind of stuff. They have the display facilities on it, and they also have a pretty steady inflow and outflow of people, so.
No, I think that sounds great.
Thank you, Ben. Cool.
Okay, well, sounds great. So moving on to point C, not really sure why this is here, strategic planning workshop session. Are we going to go into this right now?
Yeah, we are, because we left off there last month.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we'll have enough time to get through everything on there, but this will be kind of our big
Yeah.
push today since we ran out of time last time. Who wants to take the lead on this? So, and even I think the minutes at the very back, you'll have, we talked about, you know, Winstead and, Winstead at War, or Winchester at War. Of course, I gotta find it.
It's on page 3 of the minutes.
Yep. Winstead at Play. And we've just gotten kind of into programming. So I think we're gonna start thinking about some of the things that we can focus on. And then, I think we went over the survey last time. But was there
Yes.
anything more, Hamish, from the
No,
survey?
nothing to add to it. I wasn't sure if we had gotten in last time because the subject has come up since the last meeting about the church tour that Ed was talking about. I don't know if it's on any kind of list we have as kind of a living thing. We were talking about it in the last meeting.
Well, we have it down here.
Okay.
You know, separate from the strategic planning, but we certainly can, you know,
Oh,
bring
that's
that
right.
in at
That's
that
on the
point.
agenda, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
What's that? I'm not sure, I'd have to ask Shane. But, I mean, if you want, we can pass this out now, so. Here. You wanna take the one and pass it down, and then. See if it shows up. Read that. There's such a huge history with the Gilbert School. It would be kind of neat to, I don't know if they have an anniversary coming up at all either, but talk about that past and then kind of what the college's focus, or the school's focus has always been. I know it's a weird private, public
It is,
school.
yeah.
There's only 3 in the state like that. I don't know, personally, I don't know a lot about it. I think it's them.
We focused on the Gilbert home when we did
That's true.
what was it, 250th of the town, a few years back. But we did get into the school as well, the history of it. So there is information that we already compiled that's in the performance that we did for the 250th in November of '21, I think.
Was there anyone that gave a program, either from the school or a resident?
No, it was, we went through a timeline of the history of the community, and I believe Steve talked about the school, but so did, they were portraying people telling the
Right.
story in their portrayals.
It was a play.
Yeah, it was a play.
That
the
was
250th play.
videotaped, so it should be on our website.
And actually, I
huh?
think we have it printed printed as well.
Yeah.
And I know I have a printed copy at home, and it is available on, should be on the town's YouTube site,
Okay.
yeah.
Gilbert has a library, and I know they have a lot of the information. I know they even have the children that went to the home. And I had a booklet in the town clerk's office that is still there with information. So I think the information is there,
Okay.
but basically contacting Gilbert and see what we could go in and look at.
Gilbert is also an alternative school, which means that they're pretty flexible in their curricular design. That it gives a few more opportunities for things like service learning, which I do think we could take advantage of. Also, with technology, one of the big reasons that I'd really like to concentrate on getting young people involved is because technology has really advanced in the last 10, 15 years, a lot of times to a point where it's kind of beyond where I go with it. I just as an example, I'm not sure how many people in the room have actually created a podcast. I never have. I do not know how. And that, you know, and I deal with technology every day, which tells me that that's probably something that's kind of general. With high school age students, you might find a lot more adeptness with that, and I would really like to see if we could take advantage of that. Service learning would be good, and also doing anything, I realize getting into the Gilbert School would be interesting just to see the history of it, but also getting students to do projects concerning the history of Winstead and Winchester would also be interesting if we could get it displayed somehow, and that is part of the conference idea that I'd like to have on CT 250. I think it would be interesting, not just Gilbert, but we also have Northwestern Regional up here, you know, you could do, you know, a lot of work with it. But the Gilbert School is especially good for that because alternative schools will often look very well on flexible curricular arrangements, flexible types of structures for classes, so.
We already have sort of made a connection, this Vox program, I don't know if people heard about it, that happened with the Torque Museum. And it ended up with students from, well, kind of, not just from town, from even the area. They got involved in the service project that the Conservation Commission's been wanting to do for a long time, which is the business pledge for river cleanup. And the students that I got to meet with are interested in staying involved. So there's 6 kids that we can grab right away to get, like, hey, maybe you want to be part of things with the historic commission, planning, or even focus on a 250 program.
But they signed up for river cleanup?
It's not, it was, so they went around to 20, they got 21 businesses in town to all sign the pledge. And the goal was things like McDonald's, CVS, you know, occasionally go out, sweep the parking lot, look for trash along the river. So when we have a river cleanup twice a year, and I have to say, the first one that I was involved with, which was last fall, was kind of terrible. Let's just be honest, it was kind of terrible. It had been, but I was also finding styrofoam cups from Dunkin' Donuts. They haven't made those in years. So this is old trash. When we had the cleanup this past April for Earth Day, much better. It was half as much trash. And it's kind of that Disney mentality, like if you keep it clean, then it will stay clean. So as long as we stay on this at least twice a year, it will definitely help. But yeah, that's what they were trying to get. Leanne Marvin, who's one of our commission members, has been trying to get this pledge by the businesses going for years. And it probably in a way was better than coming from the town to have the students be the one to really promote it. In my opinion, that's probably why it's more successful.
They did put an ordinance through with styrofoam. And
Oh, okay.
technically, it isn't allowed. I know a gentleman fought very hard to get that into the,
State legislature.
no, it's in Winston.
Oh, in Winston?
Yes, the
Styrofoam is not
restaurants.
allowed in packaging,
Right,
you know, for like the McDonald's things and all
Yeah.
that. That has,
but some are still using it. And technically, you do have a source to say no styrofoam, but we never had the backup at that point to follow through with it. And I know the merchants just started going there's an ordinance there in Styrofoam. If that helps.
You know, and I'm also wondering, maybe we should take advantage of Stacy and Mary while we have their time. Because I think there were some things that came up last time that you
Yeah,
were hoping
that
to
would be,
follow up with.
yeah.
And then maybe we get into some specifics.
We had wanted to talk about, too many papers here tonight, I'm just flipping around, can't find where I am. We had wanted to get some specifics about the historic district designations, you know, the process.
Stacy, did you catch that? Oh, you might be muted. Sorry.
Sorry. So I heard you wanted of the historic designation process, is that right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So where are you in the process? Can you sort of?
Very, very beginning, I would say.
Yeah. I think,
So,
I think our, if I could just say that a part of our maybe reluctance in moving forward is not knowing what we need to be looking for. Like, we have areas that are of interest, but how do we determine what we're looking at is going to fit?
Does that make sense?
So you designated an area, but you're not sure that it's gonna work, basically, is that true?
Right.
That's what we're looking at
Yeah.
the moment, yep. Tried.
Is it already a National Register district, or is it designated in any way, shape, or form? It's just an area that you've identified for local designation? Okay.
Correct, no national.
We have 2 national registry neighborhoods, but right now we're looking at finding new neighborhood, new areas, let's say. But as far as I know, the ones that are national are not part of the state.
So Mary asked her, have we done a historic resources inventory? And the answer is, okay, a great thing to think about, thank you.
Just that it would help you, actually, it would identify potential National Register districts, which in turn might prompt you, or not prompt you, but might, that would be a suggestion for local. That would give you an idea that it's got some, significance that would, but local districts really are, what the municipality deems to be important historically or architecturally to the town, not necessarily the state or the nation. So there's a lot more flexibility there.
Yep.
But if you're not really sure where to start, the historic resources inventory is a great, and you must have one. I'll have to check it out. Let you know where the pockets are, where the neighborhoods are that have stuff.
Yeah. Our plan of conservation and development touches on it, and actually that was one of the recommendations, was to start a historic commission again to work on things like this. So we do probably have some, and I know our previous town clerk, who is one of our members and our town historian, did already do some of that work, so I've seen it. So we have some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'll speak for Stacy. I'm sure Stacy and I would love to come to Winchester and walk around, or maybe give you some, if you've got an idea of what you're thinking about, we could,
Yeah.
we can come and kind of help you figure out, border boundaries.
We have so the town is a mill town and has a very historic center, which are buildings that are desperate for redevelopment. And the goal was, if we could get this into a zone, into a designation, that maybe that would be an opportunity for funding. But the buildings that are win it are significant. There's significant companies and.
I think Mary's suggestion of an inventory is great, because there is the mill survey that exists, right? So there's recommendations for state and national register listing in each of those. The Connecticut Mill Survey that was done by Connecticut Trust a while ago. So that could be a little bit of guidance, provide a little bit of guidance. But if you're
part of it is.
I'm waiting for my Scott first. Yeah, there, you all probably are more aware than us, of course,
I
of
would-
your existing districts.
I would say the East End district, which focuses on the park and then the surrounding neighborhood, is probably a national.
Mhm, it
positive,
is.
though. It is,
Yeah.
okay.
East End Park is one district, and the other one goes along Main Street, Parkway.
Okay. Did you hear? And then there's a section through Main Street, okay.
And Gilbert Clock Shop is as well.
Yeah, so I think
Clock
listed
shop
on the
itself,
national
yes.
register should be appealing to, developers, because there are tax credit incentives.
Mhm.
The town could get grant funding for redevelopment if they needed it. Like say you have an empty mill or something, building, and you want to market it to a developer, but like the town owns it. You could get a grant from our office to maybe do a condition assessment or do hazardous material testing so that you know what you're marketing and the developer knows what they're working with. And you could even do, eventually, I suppose, you could even apply for bricks and mortar funding to fix things, before you put it on the market. And then a developer could come in and develop it and get tax credits. So National Register listing already offers some pretty good incentives, financial incentives. Especially if you have a vacant building and you want to put it back into use. One great example of that nearby is in Litchfield, the hotel that's being built right downtown. So that was the old town hall that is now gonna become a hotel. And in Fairfield Hills, in Newtown, that was all town property. It's going to be redeveloped, a portion of it, into apartments. So, it's possible, and I think we can have a more specific discussion about different places, with you, if that's helpful. But as Mary said, having that broad understanding of what you have in the town could guide where the pockets of potential, districts lie. And then from that information, you can determine whether you wanna have a district with a commission that oversees, exterior changes that are visible from public ways. And whether you want just to have national register listing. And we can even talk a little bit right now about the differences between those types of districts, if that's helpful. But, having that broad understanding of what you have in town is really the first step. And you can draw on the old survey that was already done, but you can update it, and there's funding available to update it too.
Okay. That's great.
I have a question. Is the knitting mill, up, is that on the historic register or is it part of the National Historic District?
I don't think it's either.
Oh, it is.
It's
It
all
is.
Whiting Mills?
Yeah, Whiting, yeah.
Oh, are you familiar with Whiting Mills in town? It's,
Yeah, it is. I've seen it.
It's an
I've read
artist,
it.
essentially studio spaces now, but was once a knitting and hosiery, I think.
Yeah,
Hosiery, yeah.
it was a hosiery.
Okay. I'm looking it up right now. If it's listed, then that does have, it's open to all of the potential
It might,
incentives.
it
I've
actually might
actually
be
read it,
because
so
American Mural
who knows?
Project owns one section of that complex, and I would be surprised if they didn't get money to help with the renovation of it.
It sounds very familiar to Mary. Doesn't that sound, Whiting Mills is something that I believe was sort of brewing when I was there a while, 10 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of those situations where if it's been put back into use in some way, then it's likely taken advantage of some of the tax credits already. And can continue to do so, to continue the redevelopment in the space.
But, great question, because I have a lot of contacts over there that we could follow up with.
Yeah.
It's like,
I-
hey, what did you do?
So, yeah, I've read the application, whatever it was, or maybe the final paperwork.
I've never come across it, that's why I'm,
Yep.
I have a question. I mean, there must be online some kind of listing of the criteria that's gonna be necessary to be able to designate something, right?
yeah,
There has to be, either, both on the state and the national level. I think that would probably be the place to start, because it's telling you what you need to do and what you need to be in order to designate areas.
And
no?
the other thing is you can go and follow what was done with Whiting Mills since it was so successful, received the grants, so.
it was listed in 1985. But interestingly, when we've searched the registry for locations in Winsted, that has not come up.
Wow.
All right, but it is 1985.
Okay, so it is listed as of 1985.
Yeah, that's,
I'm pulling up Winchester right now just to see all of the different types of listings. And there aren't a lot. They're sort of clustered in the areas described. So I think there's potential for more. And yes, there are eligibility requirements and sort of areas of significance and all of that. I can share that, send that over to Nancy. Share that with you so that you understand sort of the criteria. There's a woman at the state by the name of Jenny Schofield who is in charge of the National Register. So we'll also give you her contact.
thank you.
I have a question. I've always been interested in having Strong Manufacturing, which is on Main Street, and then a street or two away is Walnut Street, and that's where all the owners lived. And every, some of the employees lived, and they ended up, as the children grew up and they became members of it, they built their houses on the street, got extended further and further, and those houses are beautiful. I did a walk there, a program with Strong Manufacturing, and they were brought in by William Gilbert. So I was just wondering, is it at all possible to, even though they're not adjacent, if it's just a little bit of way across the street, would that be possible, do you think? Have you ever seen that done?
So I'm looking at the map right now while you're talking, and is the manufacturing plant on Park Place, or is it to the west
It's,
on Oak Street?
Whiting Street.
No, this is on Main Street. Strong
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing,
Yeah,
well, it's not called that anymore. It's, Ralph Nader owns it, the building.
I think it's 49 Main Street, if I can remember.
Yeah, it's the
offhand.
corner of Main Street.
Right near the Dairy Queen. It's basically right
Right.
across from the street on that.
So it's there on the corner, and then a little bit further down at Walnut Street, and across the street, beautiful homes. And it's been extended past the street that I live on. I mean, it just got a lot of relatives and everything else that was associated with it. They were coffin makers, and they built coffins, ornamentation for Ulysses S. Grant's coffin and a few other presidents and notables. Obviously, we went out during the Depression because nobody was buying gold and silver to put on their coffins. Otherwise, people might dig them up. It's like, so they really went up during the Depression.
It's actually 95 Main Street.
95 Main, yeah. So I was just wondering if that is something that could potentially, and those buildings are all in pretty good shape. Because some of the other ones are,
So the question is, how contiguous do
yeah, how
properties need to be?
contiguous does it have to be?
Yeah,
So I'm looking at the relationship. They typically need to be contiguous, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't propose a district of the owner's houses. So it doesn't need to be necessarily attached to the existing,
The
factory,
building itself, yeah,
but it could be.
the neighborhood.
Yeah, it could be its own neighborhood. So I see a few of them are already listed on the state register individually. So
Oh,
there's,
really?
For instance,
I have a feeling, or I know which one it is. It was the one that was given to the son as a wedding present.
There's one at the northwest corner of Grove and Walnut, that the address isn't popping up. I'm sorry, because I'm doing this on my phone. I don't want to.
Northwest corner of Grove and
No, that's
Walnut,
okay.
that's the funeral home.
But I do see there are about 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, the funeral home should be on there, the one that's a funeral home, but further down is the son, near Wetmore. And, the stone building, the one that's all stones,
Yeah.
that was
pretty
his son,
soon.
that was
That's
the way.
closer towards Main Street.
Yeah, it's closer towards Main Street. That is a gorgeous, I've been inside.
So
You can use
contiguousness
that neighborhood.
is not necessarily a qualification.
No.
No,
But I
okay.
do see that further up, just south of Grove Street, it looks like there's a cemetery there that connects to the rear lot lines of the houses on Walnut Street. So it may be possible to extend the district if it's associated. If the owners and workers do live in that neighborhood and it just wasn't included because it was maybe an earlier domination. It would potentially be possible, and it's all up to Jenny, to connect through, on those rear lot lines, and then it would become a contiguous district. So you just need to find a way to, it can't be you can't leave holes in districts, you can't leave donut holes, Park Service owns donut holes. But you can, extend them, and that it may be possible here to do that.
And that way we wouldn't have to fight with Ralph anyways.
Suggestions. No, but I think it is, if we're looking for, National Register, definitely need to get, Jenny out there to, she might be with, suggestions.
Well, that,
It
I have
would be
something.
great if you could connect the two, if the housing is
Your whole town is.
related, to the industrial buildings, but sometimes you just
Hey
can't.
Stacy, this is Kate Sherwood talking. You and I got together or spoke in email in 2021, because I wanted to put the Winchester Center Chapel on the Connecticut State Register of Historic Places. And you and Marina helped me. I just found my old email from August of that year. And you actually said that because there was a HAB study done in the 60s, that it was qualified, and I didn't even have to apply. And because of that, even though the building is not named, it's just talks about the Winchester Green and this pack of 21
Oh.
buildings.
Yeah, Marina made that determination.
Yeah, remember that?
So the
So I
whole.
got it registered. Once I found that was, I could do that, I put my own house, because it was also on the Winchester Green, as well as my neighbor across the green. Anyway, there's a good 20 buildings and districts that Historic American Building Survey did in the 1966. And because of that, they were qualified to become on the Connecticut State Register. Right? You remember?
Yep, that's
So
correct.
I have my plaques and everything for those buildings.
Yeah, I thought I saw a few with plaques on.
So I'm wondering, because I think the Winston Green was also,
Yeah, it is.
so, and because the building you're talking about, is right there on the green too, it should qualify also to get on the Connecticut State Register. The same way that, in my mind,
Yeah,
the same way
across
the
the
chapel
street,
did,
yeah.
because it's not even pictured here, the chapel, and I was able to get it on.
I don't know, that was a determination, I remember that really clearly, because it was unusual, but great, it was a positive thing. So I remember it very clearly. We would just have to run it by Marina, and
Yeah.
she'll make
Yeah,
that.
thank you. It's an idea.
Yeah.
I have all the
Yeah,
pictures.
that was the basis of the state register, so that survey that was done, that you're referring to, that's what started the state register.
thank you. You've given us a lot to think on. And we have a subcommittee for the historic districts. Linda, could you and Steve work together to, I think where we need to start is see what buildings are on the state registry already?
Right.
And then Lauren should be able to get us the historic resource inventory. Sheila, is that something that would be in town clerk's office?
I'm sorry.
The registry, the resource inventory,
That's, now when you say resource.
the historic buildings? and-
Listing
Yeah.
of all the buildings. There is a record. I left the room to go down to Glen.
Oh,
Yeah, the same with,
the resource viewer too, because that's helpful, just search it online.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
General language check.
What is it called again? It's the resource?
It's Congress, the state.
Oh, Congress.
It's a mapping, sort of database. It has all the different types of listings. Did that go through to you?
It did. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, you can share that, and that's operated by Mary Fedishenko.
I was gonna say, I think she talked about that last time we were together, so,
Yeah, so that's a good resource.
cool.
Hey, do you want to do me a favor and click on that link?
Yeah.
Could you go to resources? Okay, so we need a user guide immediately, because that's gonna give you the criteria. If we keep going down, is there any kind of listing of Connecticut buildings?
The green dots.
Conquest is just the database,
Right.
Just what, it's Congress is a mapping database.
Yep.
So.
Would you
there
rec-
is a big database too, like an Excel sheet. So for the. Yeah, although I think Jenny might have even taken it off the website because she wants people to use Congress. But if you go into Congress and just type any address, it'll come up and everything's color coded, but if you click on the dot, if it's in a district, there'll be a dot of color, depending on whether it's national, state, or local. And then it will link you to a PDF of the document. It's very, very useful, and it will tell you if something's listed or not, and what the designation is. And then if you want more information, you can actually access the National Register nomination or the survey or whatever. So,
if you go back.
so yeah, it's a mapping tool, but then it's backed up by all of our paper records, from in the office, so.
Scroll down.
It can be pretty useful, noodle around on it. It is very useful, but, yeah. And
Okay.
then it's gonna also link the, just the very basic National Register guidelines from the Park Service, and of course, as Mary said, everything has to go through Jenny. So you want to talk with her, and if you have any questions, Jenny Schofield is in charge of the National Register, Marina Wisniewski is in charge of the State Register. But this is just a basic, what I just sent in the chat, it's just a basic guideline, it has all of the bulletins about how to list, it's a lot of information, but it's inclusive, it gives you a
Lance?
listing to other projects that might not,
Well, a street.
There you go, Winchester Center.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, and then if you click on the dot, or, sorry, the arrow, right, yeah. Changed it a little bit since last time. Should have more.
Sorry, we're playing Stacy and Mary. So we looked up 10 Bridge Street. Well, I did 10 Bridge Street. It doesn't necessarily looks like there's anything to it.
It looks like maybe it's not listed currently,
Okay.
although there should be a dot on it.
There is a dot.
Willow Street. There's a building with name tape
Here,
door.
click on the dot. There you go.
Oh, yeah, what it,
And now do the arrow,
what
just
it
to see if
is,
they
is
give you
it
more
looks like
information.
the building
There
that's
we
been
go.
restored,
Okay.
not the junky one.
Do me a favor, Lance, could you click on criterion?
Yep. Oops, too far.
There you go. National Register criteria.
All right.
Is that a PDF or is that,
It looks like
That
it's.
looks like a PDF.
it's a PDF? Can you download it?
Yeah. It's 2 of 60 pages. Winsted is all the old buildings have not been torn down. What's also not nice about Winchester Winsted is all the old buildings have not been torn down. So they need some love, but we still have them, which is pretty impressive. A lot of towns have dealt with, they tear down, rebuild. So there's a lot of opportunity here, which is exciting.
That is, that's great.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the fact that the housing stock is great, you know. Mary, I don't know if you wanna mention the tax credit, homeowners tax credit, yeah. Yeah, yes. If you've currently got houses that are listed on the National Register in a district or individually, we can talk to you about, funding for private homeowners. Or if you wanted to pursue some state registered districts or national registered districts, owner-occupied houses within those districts would be eligible for a state income tax credit equal to 30% of qualified rehab expenses. So you own a house and you, like, say, have to replace the roof for $50,000. You could get $15,000 of that back in the form of a tax credit, which you could either take out your Connecticut state income tax, or I believe you can still transfer it to a corporation for cash. It's been around for about 15 years now. It's very successful, very popular, because it, you know, it's cash back, but it can be cash in pocket, you know, and it can really alleviate some of the expenses, you know, for maintaining your house. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, just be a run-of-the-mill roof replacement, you know, or if you need to paint your house, it doesn't have to be necessarily, you know, a preservation project. It's just,
I have a question. I really can't hear what you're saying, but right after this meeting, going to another meeting of a church that is part of the National Register, because it's at the end of the green there, they have to replace their roof. That's what the meeting's about. Would they be entitled to, since they don't need tax credits, but would they be able to get funding?
yeah, they could get a grant. They could get a grant for roof replacement.
Ooh.
We have and Stacy, Preservation Connecticut has some money too for religious buildings,
So
correct?
Preservation Connecticut is what they need to look up.
So, we can,
Religious facilities, yeah.
yeah, we can send you
Oh.
information for the state's
You're
group
over
and
today.
their both yearly grant, is maintenance and repair a yearly grant now? It is. Okay, and so is our Historic Restoration Fund grant now, so there's a bit of a lead time because we just closed our round, or about to close our round.
But if they get it done, let's say they got it done in a month or two, because that's what the deal is with the person that's giving them a deal, would they be able to get it back after? I mean, would they be able to, you know?
No, it's not retroactive.
You can, all right, well, I think the need is there already, so,
That is too bad.
yeah.
But something to keep in mind for any other issues that might come up, you know, Mary, they have the Historic Restoration Fund grant.
Oh, stained glass windows repaired?
The Historic Restoration Fund grant is the one for religious, you can use it for nonprofits, yeah, for nonprofits. And then we have the maintenance and repair grant, which is $15,000 for, religious properties.
Well, I'll have them look into it. She ought to know, she works at the bank anyways. Thank you.
These are great leads, thank
Yeah.
you.
Fantastic information.
Here, sorry, I thought I sent you that, I sent you the National Register one.
How do we go back? There we go. Now I can see you again. Thank you. Okay. Oh, wow, so there's probably open all of these actually. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll circulate all these with everybody.
He's gonna send it to everybody.
Well, where are we here?
You're welcome, but the National Register page from Jenny's page from the SHPO really has a nice brochure that has all of the
So right there.
sort of information about the National Register, including the criteria and the process and everything. That's great.
I wrote that down, thank you. Anything else you guys can think of?
Not right now, I think this has been tremendously helpful.
Anything you wanna pass on to our kids yet? What do you got? I'm good. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I mean, we wanna keep it, we're probably gonna still talk for another hour, but you're welcome to stay if you'd like. If not, you're welcome to bail too, but really appreciate it.
Sure, happy to do it.
Thank you.
And let us know if you need us to come down or attend a meeting in the future as you're moving along.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you,
Definitely.
Mary, for coming the first time, and we might take you up on it, but as you can see, we're chugging along, so thanks.
Oh, I think it's great. I think this is wonderful that the town is committed to this and we're here to help you, so keep on trying.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. So Stacy's with Preservation Connecticut, which you gave me that lead, and then Mary's with the state, and I forget which, is it
I think it's a
SHPO?
SHPO,
Is she in
yeah.
that office? Okay. So I'll leave this going, but.
All right, that was,
Jenny Schofield, who she mentioned,
Yeah.
is on the Norfolk Road.
Oh, really?
In Torrington, just a stone's throw from Winchester.
oh,
That's good to
So
know.
that's a good connection.
Yeah, cool.
you know, this was really helpful. And I think it would be, great maybe in a few months' time, once we, we've got our subcommittee kind of, working on things, to maybe have Jenny come and talk with us. And which one, I didn't get the name, who's the person, is it Maria or Marissa for the state connection? You have to go with Jenny for national, and
Who you working with, Kate? Marina?
Marina, thank you.
Yeah. I have, you want her?
No, yeah, if you have it, that's great. I think they were sending all that information over, but I couldn't hear her, so.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
hard
that's
to
right.
hear.
We need some speakers in this room.
We do.
We need a lot of things to tell.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
All right, super.
I'm gonna bring it to you now, just so. you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, my phone's
gosh.
cracked.
I think I'll have you forward, I think I'll have you that forward it to me.
Yeah, yeah. Whoops, sorry, your Polish
Try-
isn't that
try-
good.
No, my Polish is not that good.
There you go.
When you get to 12 plus letters, I'm done.
Yeah, I would be surprised if she still has them. I don't know what she did.
Virginia, do you have a time constraint for your next meeting?
I'm supposed to be there at 5:30, so I
Okay,
have time.
all right, because I think it would be good for us to get back to the strategic planning.
Right, we've hit this
I think, because
wayside.
we've kind of bounced around a
Yeah,
lot.
we've hit the wayside signs, but we haven't talked about the Underground Railroad research findings.
So, but she has time, so,
But under
that's fine.
subcommittee reports, so basically A, C, and D have already been covered, right?
Yeah.
yes, A, C, and D are covered. We
Okay.
have, in the subcommittees, we have B, E, and F.
Right.
Yep.
Ed, do you have a time constraint?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you have a time constraint?
Yeah, all I have to tell you, I try and touch all the churches are all interested.
Okay,
So, the question is developing an advertising campaign.
right,
And what I handed out was something I put the handout on the
okay. So for anybody who's not aware of what Ed has, Lance, we're trying to get through the subcommittee stuff. Ed has put together, I think everybody got a list of the different churches in town, and is planning a program that we thought we would do in conjunction with the Fall Foliage Festival, which is September, I'll have the date in front of me, 28th.
Yep.
The rain date is the 29th. I don't know if the churches would probably prefer to leave it on the 28th and not deal with the rain date, my guess.
Saturday's better for them.
Yeah.
Sunday they have service.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would not switch. It would just stay on Saturday regardless of the weather. So now, so you, just confirming, you've spoken to all the churches?
Yeah, I
and-
did not include the church on Winchester Green,
Okay,
because I think that's just out of the way. It's not part of downtown.
No, it's 4 miles away,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so I didn't include that.
but it's on your list.
It just as being in.
In there. I was gonna suggest adding the chapels, it's right across the street. 15, even older,
What's it called?
the chapel,
It's got me a little
18,
building.
15.
so I don't know, you can talk about whether you want to include that or not,
Not
but,
too far away.
okay, you want it to be a walking tour where people
Right.
can walk to it.
It's
I get
4
that.
miles away.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's a long walk.
That's fine.
So at this point, you and I talked about timing. The Fall Foliage Festival is from 10 to 3, but you would like to make it 10 to 4.
Right. Don't
So-
be open, people on straggle or whatever.
Right.
If no one comes in, they can always stop it.
All right, and then Lynn was going to work on a flyer for you. So we've got to get that going so we can start advertising.
And then
As soon as
contact me
possible.
for publications.
But you're not gonna have tour guides for that, right? People will walk into churches if they choose to do so.
Right.
In that case, you should include the Congregationalist Church up in the green.
It's 4 miles away.
Doesn't matter,
People can
people are gonna
drive,
drive there anyway. They're gonna drive to the church. I mean, if it was a day when, September 28th, is probably gonna be in the 60s or 70s. I mean, you know, you can walk all the way up and down Main Street, but I'll tell you what, if you have people over 65, they're probably not gonna get them walking up and down Main Street. You know, if you're gonna go by car, might as well include the Congregationalist Church. Yeah.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you know, now that I have my AARP card, I'll speak what I want about that stuff.
Really?
You know,
When I have my knee replaced, so.
There you go.
You're
There
doing
you go.
really well. I'm
And
rather
we're all
jealous.
doing well here
I'm
with our
rather
canes
jealous.
and our.
Thank God.
Yeah,
So, Ed,
I mean, if somebody has energy, you can always come out and cut my grass for me, but, you know, I think, you know.
But then I
Stuff.
have to say, I agree with Hamish. I think that, you know, let's include them all. And, you know, and the idea that we discussed last month was that the churches should have someone there, like, so that's all worked out. Okay, super.
Yeah, what are we calling this?
Yeah, do you have a name for it?
Mr. White, Winstead Church Tour.
Ed? Ed, do you have a name for the program? Do you have a catchy name you want to give it, or? Okay, church open house. We'll come up with something catchy. All right, okay, all right, super.
Use dates,
And
17,
we'll
60-something.
we'll be advertising this as being sponsored by the Winchester Historic Commission. And then, you know, the program designed by, you know, so it'll all be there that way, but, all right. We'll get our name out.
Well, they seem quite interested.
I think it's a great idea.
Dates.
Yeah, it was something that pre-COVID, there were a group of people in town who had wanted to do like a stained glass tour. And, you know, like all sorts of things, COVID kind of put a kibosh on those ideas, and I think it's a great idea to bring to the forefront.
Yeah, some of them are reluctant to over-advertise the St. Louis.
Okay.
Really?
They're afraid of being stolen.
Be what?
They're afraid someone will come in at night and steal them. Seriously.
Oh, wow.
You know, they're concerned.
Yeah, it would only take 4 or 5 hours to drive a car up and then take the window out,
I
put
don't
it
know how
in the
they
back
do
of
it.
it.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like pulling a ATM off a compromise.
How do you know what it's like to pull an ATM out?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm considering it.
All right, so, you know, we'll get a flyer together with your approval, and we'll get that moving. And then, you know, I forget, Alexa will take care of getting it advertised. And then, one thing we don't have, and I think we need to talk about it, but not right now, we'll put it on maybe next month, is having our own, you know, Facebook page, Instagram page, website, you know, something where there are resources and nice pretty pictures and all that for people to come and visit. I would say like, Torrington Historical Society has a beautiful website. We're not a historical society, but we're collating a lot of information. And for some of the things we've talked about, trying to get oral histories from people and things like that, having a place.
Sort of a dumping ground for all
Yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, we're using our website already
Okay.
for some of that, but I agree, to make it relevant, we probably have to have Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, probably.
Both.
All right, so,
Does anyone have contacts with the local newspapers or the radio stations? Does Friends of Winston, Main Street have contacts?
well,
Friends of
there's
Main
Friends of Main Street, over the years, we've lost like the local newspaper. So, well, so like when we're doing an event, let's say for the Soldiers Monument, that usually falls to me to kind of promote it. And I've rather given up on the newspapers, to be honest. They all have press release pages, but I will take it back though. 4th of July, Republican Americans sent somebody to the, what was it? Memorial Day? Juneteenth. Republican Americans sent a reporter to,
Philip Ryan.
to talk about that. So,
I really want them to talk about it before it happens, not after.
well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
And that's,
see, they're
that's,
feature
course.
editors, so they don't give in advance their features.
so it's difficult. And I think that, again, there's, you look in the Sunday Current, we still get a paper at our house, but you look in the Sunday Current and you see, things in there, they're all paid. We have zero budget. So that's the difficulty. So that's why I think social media is really very helpful.
Well, the Register Citizen, I think, often has articles about things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. There's, I can get you the contact information. All the newspaper websites have a section for press releases. And it's a matter of getting it in as early as possible. Like I said, I've kind of slacked off on it. My thing for Juneteenth, I did put it out there and it made some results, but it's a lot of extra steps, so. All right, super. Why don't we do the Underground Railroad?
Yeah, Virginia. Virginia, tell us about the Underground Railroads.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
Nope.
Okay, well, you notice that I say in search of the Underground Railroad. I haven't found all of that yet. It's not uncovering the Underground Railroad. Hopefully, in time, it will happen, but this is, we wanted to get this done quickly. And in hopes that some of these people that haven't answered will, but we know that even though I had to send the letter to New York, so he hasn't gotten it yet, the Noble Everett House, we know, was part of the Underground Railroad. There was an article in the newspaper when somebody else's house was discovered. The Batista's house, which was the house of Silas Hurlbut. And so we do know that those two houses were. And then I get a call from somebody on responding to my email. She says, we know ours was part of the Underground Railroad because when we lifted our kitchen floor, there was a pit where they kept the runaway in order to, keep them safe and hidden, she said. And that one was owned by Silas Hurlbut, McAlpine, I should say, brother, John McAlpine. McAlpine, whatever. I don't think we have a glossary for that, but whatever. They are descendants of Hurlbuts, and the thing is, they married sisters, and so they obviously, there's nothing safer if you're doing keeping trying to quietly get runaway slaves to another destination safely is to keep it all in the family.
So Virginia,
Depends on the family.
of these names here.
I've
which-
got- oh, I've
Which ones
got
are the
the-
ones that you've identified?
Okay, so far, I do know that, let me see, I
I'm
don't
just
even
looking
think I
at
have
the list here
names
and I
in
just
front
want
of
to
me.
note them.
There, and I do think that your house may very well be part of it, behind that clock.
Yeah, I mean,
I
know
can't
a lot of
imagine
things.
why that clock would be stuck in the wall like that if it
What
wasn't.
was the clockmaker in West City, did two of them in Litchfield County, he built them into the walls on the request of the owners who were building them. So,
Yeah, and
it
it,
wasn't Gilbert, it was the other clockmaker, 1816.
yeah, and so it opens up, the clock doesn't open, the wall opens up, is that
You
it?
know, there's a door behind, there's a circular stair that's behind it, and there's just a space in there that's unused. You can kind of get to it through this little closet door. We've always wondered what the heck that was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would be, and it's right there. I think everybody on the green knew what was going on. Now, we haven't heard, so there's only one, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7.
All right, so you started out, you said the Noble House. Which one of the, like, I just want to make sure.
Okay, the addresses don't, the Noble House is, Coyne, C-O-Y-N-E, that
Oh.
owned by Coyne.
Oh, yeah, that was the old Trevor House, that's 1112.
Yeah,
Uh,
the numbering of these houses is weird.
All right,
it's
so this,
1112 Newfield.
And 119 would
Okay.
be Silas,
Which-
McAlpine.
Which is now Chris Matisse's. Here's the
Yep,
article
there's the article.
Okay.
From 2001, when they found it in the house and the kids explained it.
okay, do we have,
You want this?
yeah, that'd be great.
And then on Chapel Street, was it 158 or something? Is there a 158?
138?
138, yeah, 138 is Chris Royer's house. That was John McAlpine.
That's John McElpine.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, Silas dies young. He dies before 1850. He had only been married for 10 months. He had married this sister of the wife of John. So again, all in the family. Samuel, who's out of state, his wife dies. He comes back and marries the widow of Silas. It is so weird. Like I said, there's no better way of keeping a secret than keeping it all in the family. And they're Herberts. The guys are descended from Herberts. So there's a Herbert house on there. I haven't heard from that
Okay.
one yet. So,
I talked to the Kellys across the green. They didn't get your letter, by the way, so they're another one.
Oh.
They have a post office one, but they said even if you put their address on, they would get it.
I did, yes, I did. I did mail it to them.
They should have gotten it. So I saw Sandra, and they say there's the talk about the tunnel between their house
Yeah.
and the other house under the green. She said, there's nothing in our house that shows that. I said, put it in stone back up.
Yeah, right. You
You're
would
like
have,
so like it didn't happen. But this is the 1800s, come on. They could have had the tunnel and then just.
yeah, but that would have gone over to the tavern. So,
Exactly. And they're on vacation now, they're coming back.
so we'll find out more about
I
that.
think he had found something up in his house too.
Yeah.
Joel and.
Yeah, and that was the Hatch House. I forgot what the guy's first name.
It's facing the green, it's a tavern.
And don't ask me why it's considered to be Chapel Street. I have no idea.
Road.
Chapel Road.
It's Chapel.
Oh, because it's kitty corner.
Oh, the address, you're right.
Yeah, the address is so weird.
Question for you, when you're contacting these people, I think one of the things we need to know is whether they will be willing to have their home, listed on the Freedom Trail registry.
That's
Are
something
you-
that I have to go over as I'm actually speaking to them.
Okay.
Okay, because if they may not, and that's their prerogative. I am
understand that, that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking, like, you know,
yeah.
we're doing the research, you know, as we build, you know, compile the information to
Yeah.
make the application, you know, we just wanna make
Right.
sure
Right,
that they
exactly.
are,
Oh,
you know,
I
comfortable with that.
understand that.
Okay.
And the thing is, I'm as interested in having it be a part of the education in town. Because like they take kids for walks to be aware of the flood, there's more than the flood to Winstead's, in Winchester's history. This is something that should be discussed.
Definitely.
You know, it should be part of the curriculum. And, you know, so it definitely is happening. And I was reading the book by Struther about Underground Railroad in Connecticut. He did mention Silas Hurlbut with an asterisk after his name, mentions Noble Everett, but doesn't have his name listed. But Noble Everett was the secretary of the Litchfield County Anti-Slavery. So one of the things I'm gonna be mentioning though is, if you remember when we did Charles St. John, his descendant came, or well, he wasn't direct descendant, but he came up, he gave me, he sent me an email, not long after, wanting to know if I could find, this runaway slave, Prince St. John, who was Charles's father. And he sent me, and Prince apparently stole some of the owner's clothes, his frock coat and this and that, and ran away. I couldn't find him because it kept saying it was Winstead. Well, I finally found he was on Torringford Street, not very far from the Uriah Tuttle, who is the chairman of the Litchfield County Anti-Slavery thing. And was part of and he is listed on the thing. So I wouldn't be surprised. Slaves would know where to run. He's not that far from him, and would have most likely. So I did try and get a hold of Darnell, but I haven't heard back from, so may not be an existence email anymore. But I just wanted to let you know, I was actually able to find one. And whether he ends up going, I don't think he would go up through Winchester. He might go from there to Winstead, to Jonathan Coe, which I'm not even really bringing up too much because I want to talk about Winchester Center because of this clique, this family grouping, and see what happens. But I think he probably went through Winstead. Because it would either gone, there was a map of, and I'll put a package together better. It's in some place in this mess here. From Struther, and it shows either going up through Colebrook or going through Norfolk. So, but I will start off with Mars, because this book, he used to, as an old man, this picture was taken, he wrote the book as an old man when he's trying to sell the book around 1864. That's probably when he stopped at the Bronson House. The parents lived, while he was a captive, lived for a number of years on the Waterbury Turnpike, which goes right by the Bronson House.
Neat.
And so obviously they knew them, and used to play with the little Elliot Bronson. He remembered it. It's in an article.
That's the house I live in now.
It's, yeah, that you live in, that has that clock.
Cool. Do you have any, like, questions for Virginia at this stage of the game? Because I know you were working on the Freedom Trail application process and all that.
I mean, definitely, I'd love to have a copy of all this research, not only for our files, but also for Virginia.
Yeah. 'cause-
Yeah.
Because Ben's the person
Right
who's gonna
now,
be
I'm just
putting the
trying to get
application together.
information together. I'd like to get the people together. And I think this is, what a wonderful thing for the community, I think, to actually be part of this whole thing.
Phenomenal.
I was planning on having a gathering on the gazebo on the green on Saturday in the afternoon. I talked with,
Yeah, not this Saturday, the following Saturday?
following Saturday,
Yeah.
based on, Chris Boyer's schedule too. There's more to that story she would have talked with.
Mm.
And Sue Addison, who's the, secretary
he had done, some research
Yeah, Ben
on this sort of
Thomas,
thing, and the family threw out all the paperwork.
You know, I really have been away for 50 years, and I'm kind of coming back to all of this, and I'm just shocked,
He
actually.
was fantastic.
So I'm basically, yeah, I used to love the little the little newspaper from Winchester Center.
So,
Yeah.
Kate, I mean, how are you planning to capture these stories? I mean, are you gonna record people and have them write it down? I mean, how?
We didn't really talk about how we do it. At first, I don't know. I mean, I thought first we'd just everybody come and talk and let's
Read the stories, maybe we should, tape the stories.
Tape it, yeah, if we have stories,
Yeah, you know, if we
Yeah.
have them, or information, take pictures of them. If there's pictures, if Chris has pictures of the pit in our cellar, or, the Batistas have a picture of the hole in the wall that showed, for the secret room,
Yes.
that sort of thing
Yeah.
would be helpful.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you have the opportunity to be having this discussion, you know,
Right,
to
right.
capture as much information
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
can while
And
everybody's,
you're right, I think recording would be really good.
okay,
Yeah,
super.
yeah.
But there's gonna be a lot more research after that, too.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the
Oh,
starting
yeah, I mean,
point.
that's why I'm really with this program, it's basically a way to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So everybody should have a flyer for Virginia's program that's coming up
Yeah,
in
and,
August.
if it rains, we're gonna be at First Church, although really have to let them, I let two people know, the moderator and the person that has the church open, and I'm on the board too. The other two people, I have to let them know today.
Thank you, Virginia. Does anybody else have any more questions for Virginia, or? All right, while we're down here in this section, should we take the last bit there, and before we go back to strategic planning,
Which is what, scenic roads?
which is the regarding designation for scenic road, Joe?
So I have no idea if that's in your purview or not, but I'm gonna make it your purview. As we keep, doing inspections in town, like, we should have a scenic road ordinance, in my opinion. I don't know if there is one that exists, I know they're identified in the plan, but not, I don't know if anything's been formalized. So, that would be something that would be, I think, good, a valiant, effort on our part to work on.
I think there was something years ago, but it never materialized.
Well-
No.
What roads are you thinking of?
Well, your area out in Winchester
Yeah.
Center hits obviously mind. And then also there are things like Walnut. I know there's ranches and capes that are now scattered in between, but they're, like, when we're talking about trail planning and I wanna get people down to Tetro Park, I'm like, that'd be a nice neighborhood to walk through. And I also say Hinsdale, if Valerie and I lived in town, that's where we would walk every night. It's some gorgeous homes on that side. But what makes a scenic road? That's, is it a country road or is it the architecture? That's something we would have to kind of figure out, I guess.
Winchester Center, Blue Street, I love it. But the interesting thing is that I think would be a nice little project, right, is the schools. Most of the schools in Winchester Center are still around, even from Thomas Jefferson's administration. That's how far back they go. Okay, the only ones that have been removed are the new ones. The old ones are still there. One of them's been moved to a private property, but the others are still around. And I lived in a house in Winsted that I did not know was decommissioned in 1870 as a schoolhouse. I read about it in DeMars. I'm like, oh my God, that's a house we almost bought it. It's 335 North Main. There's the car dealer, the car wash and all that. There's a brick house, and then there's this big ugly white house that's 335, and it's closed. But it used to be further back on the property, they said, and there was no lean-to where there was a kitchen. You can tell from the inside there was apparently 2 doors leading in, boys and girls, 2 stairways, and I'm like, 2 closets, everything matched on each side, okay? And then, when you get up to the second floor, you could see where they must have removed the dividing wall, because it's sort of sunk in a little bit. So, I didn't know until after that that was a second district school that was decommissioned in 1870, so God knows how old it was.
You can add that to another list,
I
another
know, it's
project
another
that-
list further down
Yeah.
further down the road,
Yeah.
but there's, all these schools,
Well, there's.
You know why
there's-
there were so many schools back then?
a lot of kids, and they didn't
No,
walk all
it
that
was a
far.
rich person's way of avoiding the draft in the Civil War. If you were a school teacher, you weren't to be drafted.
Oh,
If you
Yeah,
were
but-
wealthy enough, you could get out of it that way. It happened all over the country. There was a huge flourishing, schools, pharmacies, and the thing is, you would say, geez, it seems like a lot of schools for a town that size. Yeah.
There weren't
And then
that many
It was
school
closed down
teachers.
5 years after the war,
yeah,
Interesting.
I don't really think that that was the case there, and a lot of them were taught by women, so,
Well,
you know.
I'm watching the clock.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And I think that,
I just thought I'd
the
add that to
discussion about
scenic.
scenic roads, I think is, something to look into. I don't know if we have time right now to look into it,
I know,
but definitely something of value. But we need to get back to the strategic planning, I think, at this point. Because we've done
It would be
everything else.
great if we walk away tonight with 5 deliverables. That's my one goal for you guys. Is deliverables, things that we can work on right away and,
Well, I think we
and
have those.
accomplish in this year.
I think we have this, the wayside signs, the Underground Railroad, the,
The historic district, I mean, we
districts,
already
yeah.
have 3 things that were,
There we go.
Ed's church tour.
churches,
Mhm.
board.
But I would like to get back to, mapping things out, because we left off just as we were getting to the fun stuff, But I don't know, I'm looking back here at the minutes, did we come to any decision about the logo? Hamish, was that
Or
anything?
what, the
For the
circles?
250th?
No.
No, okay, so that's still something, but we have time
Yeah.
to work on that. So where are we, Lance, in your
We've covered about everything.
storyboard there?
Questions? So,
It's about everything except the whole business.
No.
Should only be-
strategic.
Oh, that, sorry.
we talked about partners, which, it's funny with a lot of things that are coming up with even the Conservation Commission, we were saying, does anybody know from the Rotary or the Lions Club? Like, the Elks Club I actually have a connection with, but I don't know how much those groups are actually talking to each other. And if we had a specific project in mind that we could get them involved with, then that would be helpful. Didn't put any notes on arts and
I think
culture.
what's most important is that we find people to start putting feet to pavement, and that is gonna involve younger people, and I think a lot of the things that we're talking about doing, it would do well. For instance, if you want a Facebook page and a website, to be honest, I think most 13-year-olds could probably do it better than I could, and I
agree.
There's a lot of familiarity. There's also another thing, which is, I think it would be an interesting thing to look into, not only service learning for public schools, theater programs. I think you had on Juneteenth, the guy who came out, Mr. Webb, it
Kevin
would be,
Johnson,
schools are very interested in that stuff, and it would be a neat thing to do. I was thinking about it with the church open house too, is that you could kind of combine those. But we have to have people who are willing to get onto the ground. I was thinking the same thing with the Underground Railroad, is that if you go to a house, if they haven't received a letter for whatever reason, or they just haven't looked at their mail, at least they would have some contact, And frankly, the younger the better for that. If I go up to somebody's house, they're probably gonna think some weirdo's out there looking for spare change, you go out with a Boy Scout uniform, it might be better, but. Well, I'm not looking for spare change, but dollar bills. would be
I'm
good.
looking for the ATM at Cumberland.
Yeah. Wrap the spare change in dollar bills, you can throw it at me, I'm all right.
Yeah,
So we're very fortunate with Alexa Hinton as our new communications partner, and she admitted I'm the one who's given her the most information out of all the directors. And I get it, because we're all super busy, but this is a push, and our new town manager wants us to start promoting the things that we're working on. So, this is a feel-good subject for sure. So, if we can get some stuff together for Alexa to post, we can make that happen.
post
So-
on the town website?
Yeah, we're on a Facebook page, kind of like a subset that would be for the
Yeah.
historic commission.
We would need to create that.
Yeah, well, creating a Facebook
well,
page.
Could they
It's
promote
content, so-
the Underground
Yeah.
Railroad thing?
Like that
You
would be.
gave it,
No,
you
but
have-
I mean, that would be a good idea, and I didn't think of it until you just said that. So-
Yeah,
'cause I
yeah,
saw
that
it
would
on
be nice.
Soldiers Monument, but any of that cross promotion that was
Yeah,
just helpful.
it's a cross thing,
Mhm.
you know. Actually, they've taken this, basically, well, I am doing it for well, it's a cross thing. I think that the information is going to the Historic Commission and Soldiers Monument, but I think that it's just as important for the Historic Commission.
Yeah, well, that, yeah.
I think that's what we did, was we
Yeah,
decided to do that.
So with the library anniversary, we did that for your 2 programs that you've had so far. So like, that's a good dumping ground, in my opinion,
Yeah.
for historic commission as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, the library gets almost everything that I do, goes into the folders. I will give them to you so you can put them into folders. But, yeah, I used to ransack the folders. Jonathan Coe, folder's a mess, I'm sure.
Actually, we need a separate folder just for him. We
Oh,
have one
really?
folder for the whole code family.
Yeah, really, it gets me confused as to which Coe is whom.
Yeah.
All right, so as far as takeaways from this meeting, is there more that we want to put on to the strategic planning, or are we set? I was under the impression when we left last month that we were gonna flesh this out fully.
Yeah, I mean, any more programs that you guys can think of to tap into, if we know people that would be willing, or is a subject matter that,
Well,
you know, I like to try to steal from other towns. We had Marty come, you know,
Yeah.
talk about the CCC, stuff like that, we can just grab and
well,
try to do a few more events before the end of the year.
we already have, Soldiers Monument does a lot of events. So we can partner, within the community in that regard, I would think. Coming up, we have, Virginia's program. We're doing a September 11th concert on the lawn of the monument, unless it rains.
See, I didn't even know that.
We haven't published,
Okay.
publicized it yet, but yes. So September 11th, there'll be, because that's the day the monument was dedicated. So it's a 2-prong, special day. So there'll be a concert, then we have
We hope.
cemetery, well, yeah, we're all set. And then the cemetery walk. We do a Veterans Day program. So there are things that we can piggyback or partner on for this year. For something, a standalone, well, we have Ed's church tour as a standalone. If we can get Stuart's, program together before the end of the year, but the big problem we've had in our conversations is a lack of space in town. Whiting Mills has a room there that if September 11th is raining, that's where we'll have the concert. But it's too big for what, Stuart wants to put on display and not secure. We don't have a gallery in town, to say, and I keep thinking there's some really nice storefronts that are vacant. Wouldn't it be great if we had the ability to use a storefront for something like that? So we're kind of out of.
Actually, a good partner though, there would be the Tort, museum, Tort Lot.
Yeah.
Melissa's always looking for ideas for programming there, and would be secure.
It would be secure. So the only space they have there that I know of is the room that we did
Yeah.
Kevin Johnson's program in.
Rather dank, but it would be secure.
It's dark, but it would be a secure place to have it. And they loved having us there that day, so that's a possibility. We've just kind of exhausted the possibilities in town, and that's why I thought maybe Torrington Historical Society, they have, again, a secure location, and it's a venue where they have done other, public displays, and I picture, that would work. Ben, I don't know what the space would be like in the library.
I mean, if we were doing an exhibit or something for only 2 or 3 days,
that was,
You really need display cases.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really the only space we have that, I think would work.
Northwestern Community College has a library that has display cases. By state mandate, they have to change them every month. And so that's when you hear about like Black History Month and then Native American
Right.
history.
Yeah.
They change them all the
Okay.
time for it, and they're lockable generally, which is, I think, what you want, something that you can lock up. If it's small enough for me to just walk away with something in my pocket, it'd be better if we could just lock it so that you just don't have to worry about it too much.
Well, I
But
think that's a
there's-
great idea.
Yeah.
There's another thing I was thinking of, which is almost all of the programs that we've discussed so far, and that includes the open house for churches. Almost all of these are gonna be almost exclusively for senior citizens. And I don't mind that. Senior citizens are a great market for this stuff. But the thing about it is, you know, that you're gonna get the same basically kind of 20 people or so, you know, at virtually every presentation. It's great to have them. You know, I like, seniors make up 85% of my market when I go out and do presentations. But I really think we wanna try to incorporate especially students. And as I'm looking at this, I'm just thinking about things like social media, I'm thinking about things like theater. We could probably start looking at things that you might be able to do something in the fall. I don't know, that might not be time enough. But there's a lot of power out there among students, and I think especially like the Gilbert School, with their flexibility, might be able to get somebody to give us a lot of real help that we would have to pay for otherwise, and pay big money for. If you want somebody to create a website for you, that's a lot of money. You know, and they'll come in and do it in 2 days. It's still, you know, a great deal, but I do think that students here are gonna be important. Like I said, I love to present to senior citizens. I am one. But after a while, that's, you know, it's a finite market, you know? And that's something I really think we should be considering. But
So what would you consider, you know, in the different types of events that we've been talking about, if we wanted to have a public event that's gonna, you know, I think of the triathlon, but that's down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, sponsoring a 5K or something like that in the fall?
No, you know what I was thinking of was actually, I was considering the Underground Railroad. I only spoke about this with you for a couple minutes. Virginia and I spoke about this, and I said, you know, what would be interesting would be to have a series of podcasts on not only the Underground Railroad in Winchester, which is an interesting subject in itself, but also on how you went about trying to find the information.
Right.
People are fascinated with this because there's no way for you to come into a town hall and they would say, oh yeah, we've got designated members of the Underground Railroad here.
Yeah,
Nobody
'cause
would have
this
done
is
that.
a secret.
Right.
I mean, their
Exactly.
lives depended on it.
Right, and it makes it interesting to find out how this was done. But again, that's something that somebody in, you know, something like a school where you have IT classes, that's something people would be interested in. And communications, I'm sorry, what was the lady's name? for-
Alexa.
Alexa?
Sounding good.
Alexa.
Alexa.
All right, well, Alexa, make me a podcast.
Yes.
But that, I would imagine she would be much more familiar with that than most of us would be. But it would be an interesting thing to put on. Also, CT 250 does have a website. They're associated with a website that we can make announcements on there as well. That might be a good thing to do as well.
Okay.
More information forthcoming.
What is this? I'm just
Also,
sitting
next
here.
year, what I would like to do is talk about Revolutionary War soldiers. Up in Winchester Center, you got the Hurlbut, and we've got the Bronson, and they both crossed the Delaware with George Washington and fought at Trenton. And Hurlbut didn't stay to go to Princeton, but Bronson did. So, but it's, and then they come back and they're almost like competing families.
White House,
Oh, yeah,
there's a reason for it.
there is. That's why you have a Spite House.
So,
Can you remember in the past, was there any like festivals or anything? Like I've known Steve talked about the Frontier Festival. I thought it would be fun to bring back, or Frontier Days.
Oh, we said a blueberry festival.
Blueberry, but I saw that came back finally. Huge. The church, I think, sponsored it this year.
It's not like it was, they had,
Uh,
people would park buses and cars in fields, and the farmers' fields and come in. The women would make pies all year long, and then they would bake it the night before in the building next door to my house, which was the original
we'll be talking.
Yeah.
So a 5K, would that attract like the, younger set, let's say?
I think it would. What you'd need is if you're doing triathlon stuff, this is a perfect place for it. Because you have the water for it as well, and this is considered the best bicycling area in the state, the northwest corner.
So that was something you had proposed as part of the 250th,
Yeah.
but is that something that can be organized before then?
There's a bunch of stuff, I don't know how long it would take to organize it so that you could effectively publicize. I would imagine a year would be enough time, but, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. There's a
Okay.
couple of people I know who have organized it, and I would be interested in talking to them about it, because I think it would be great for the town as well. Hey, Lance.
See, I don't know anything about creating a podcast. I can't,
No, and neither do I.
I can't picture
Yeah.
how, like, where you'd even start.
And
to do something like that.
But I'll tell you something, my wife's a catalog librarian, so she's pretty up on technology. She does not watch TV, she does not check out the internet too much, there's too much craziness on. She gets a lot of stuff, she gets entertained by podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's a 1-hour commute each way to work, so, podcasts are fantastic for it. The thing about them is, it's a very common form of communication now.
It is, yeah.
But not for me,
Well,
it's-
my kids are all,
Yeah.
in their commutes or their road trips and all, they're
Yeah.
always listening to podcasts, so, the other thing and I don't know who this would appeal to, but something, it's just the same kind of concept. I don't know if anybody's familiar with, After the Battle, it's the Gettysburg Historical Society's museum, and they now do a Monday, it's a video. So it's not not a podcast, but it's a video. And it's just a short little, like we're talking about the day in Winstead history. The person who's their head historian, and he's out wherever it is on the battlefield or next to some monument or in the graveyard. And it's it's a very short sort of snippet of history. That same concept, I suppose, but needs to be fleshed out more in a podcast format.
Or actually, Instagram sounds like it would be more suitable
That would be
for it,
very
yeah.
suited for Instagram,
Yeah.
They have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's where that information gets
Yep.
sent out, but that's another possibility of reaching
Yeah.
a different audience, let's say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be a good thing to do. I also think that, once again, we think of things like social media, you think of Facebook. Facebook is almost exclusively senior citizens now. And kids all have a Facebook account because they know their parents or grandparents are gonna put something on there and they're gonna be forced to say, oh, that's great, cool. But most people now, you're talking stuff, oh yeah, believe me, my students, when I asked them about Facebook, you know what they did? Every one of my students, college classroom, I said, so you guys have Facebook pages? They all went, yeah, we have Facebook pages. That's exactly the reaction.
Yeah.
And so basically, it's not for them, and it's a shame because I'm a fantasy science fiction writer, and I have a Facebook page. That's about as useless as fifth wheel on a car, Instagram is, I think, where we might want to go, but again, too, we need technology that I don't have,
Well, and you also need someone who's gonna, moderate it.
Yes.
That becomes, for Soldiers Monument, there's 3 of us that moderate
Yeah.
the Soldiers Monument page. We don't have an Instagram, and I think we should have one, but then it just, the responsibilities keep growing in that regard,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. It's probably beyond what Alexa can do for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting her the information, really. But,
Do you think she could attend a meeting of ours and discuss these types of media with
Yeah.
us?
She typically only works till, she's part-time with town, so
I gotcha.
she's only 8 to 1, but I could ask her if maybe she could adjust her schedule. and
That
come
would be
on
nice.
Thursday afternoons, so, we'll see.
Do you think, this is unrelated, but do you think up there where it says triathlon podcast, do you think you could put up living history?
Yeah, yeah. And,
That's our, in young people parlance, that's our jam.
And that'll get some younger people in too, something that's a little more interactive.
Living history, I was thinking, you have theater programs in every high school around, and that's a neat thing to do. used to have that at Gettysburg when I was Park Service. Those were some of the most popular events that we held.
You were Park Service at
Yeah.
Gettysburg? Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
So you know Tim Smith?
No.
He's the one who does these.
Oh, no, that
videos.
would probably be, I was a long time ago.
Trust me,
there,
he's
yeah.
also gonna
Yeah.
knock the card.
Yeah. But living history is great because it's also decentralized. You don't have to coordinate that. You basically tell somebody, research this part, become this person, and they do it themselves, which is, as far as I'm concerned, that's much easier, you know, when you're able to decentralize your projects or the tasks like that. And then they'll worry about things like costumes, they'll worry about things like, you know, artifacts that they might need to have when they're doing a presentation. But it really, living history tends to do really well. And even if somebody just walks out on the green and you have a program like this, you attract people just coming by. Just because they see somebody in weird clothing, you know, who knows what's gonna happen, you know, might even be a political rally. Go out there and look at what's going on, you know, but,
The encampments that they have are popular and people come
Yeah.
out usually for that too, so.
One of the most popular programs that the Newtown Historical Society did recently was a guy who did frontier cooking.
yeah,
And he brought a Conestoga wagon, he parked it right on the lawn in front of the house.
yep.
And people driving by on Main Street just pulled over and,
And they wanted to look.
yeah.
I've had people do Civil War soldiers' daily life stuff.
Mhm.
And I had a bunch of college students out there, and the guy was like, do you want to know how to do fermented peaches under the table? Everyone wanted to know, you know? But also, there's other things, and just really interesting stuff about it, you know? That people, you know, in a Civil War soldier's uniform, for instance, if you've ever seen a Union soldier's overcoat that they would wear in the winter, they're amazing pieces of design. It attracts a completely different market than people who would be interested in a .58 caliber rifled musket. You know, it's just a really interesting thing. But again, you just need the folks out there to, you know, but reenactments, I think, are really neat for that as well. And there's a lot of people around, everything from World War II back, you know, that, yeah. Yeah, do you think you could put down reenactment up there? That'd be great.
Yeah. Can we change that to a mini triathlon since we're doing a 5K?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of a marathon, you know.
I actually did a mini triathlon
Yeah.
years ago, Wellesley College.
Yeah,
Which is
mini,
great, it's doable.
right, and a mini triathlon, you can get people of all ages doing it. I mean, you know, you're not gonna get me in a marathon
Right,
or,
and you can do it in a half a day instead of like a full.
also without all the Ironman type. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
exactly.
that's a very affluent market, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get 200 people in town who are spending a lot of money, you know, but.
Would you want me to add that?
Mini
did I-
triathlon.
Mini, oh.
Hyphen.
It was, I forget what I just said.
I know,
It doesn't
it's
matter.
that-
Oh, never mind, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll go back.
You did that already.
All right, so we have YMCA as a
Well,
partner.
I have connections with both these groups, YMCA and Fit Together, and I
Okay.
think that's right in their wheelhouse to organize, so.
Sure.
That,
Alright.
that could be
I
something.
also just got an email today, I'm at Manchester Community College, folks, so I'm out there a lot too, it's 35 miles away. But I just got, the people there from, the town council who want, Eagle Scout projects out in Manchester, just because there's an opportunity for them. I really think that's a good way to go, because Eagle Scout projects generally tend to be, they're a one-off, they're finite. We can do something that benefits the town and then it's done. And I think that would be a great thing to do. Also, internships. When you can bring somebody in for a specific purpose, a specific amount of time, so that they know that for the next 4 weeks I'll be doing this, but not indefinitely, I think it's a useful thing. If you can get them either school credit, or as I said, something like, you know, merit badges or achievement awards. Scouting does both. Girl Scouts tend to do achievement awards. Boy Scouts do merit badges.
I'm trying to think, what is, I'm drawing an absolute blank. In high school, we were talking about Gilbert.
Right.
When you're, 4.0, my kids were, what is this, National
Dean's List, National Honor Society?
National Honor Society. They have to do community credits. If
Yes.
we had, someone, if we tapped in to the schools and,
Yep.
I guess would we be able to do that with Northwestern too, or just?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with
Oh,
both,
yeah.
both high schools?
For them, that's called service learning.
Service
And
learning, okay.
that's important for them. But the other thing is, if you look at a listing of merit badges or achievement awards for scouting, there are literally about a dozen that have to do with history, community service, politics. So, and for all ages too, I think it would be good, you know, for, you know, I think daisies are how old? Does anyone know that?
Oh, daisies are,
They're like young, right?
They're young,
First
yeah,
grade,
they're like-
second
they're
grade,
like-
something like that?
yeah, they're young.
But you have awards for people from that age right up to ambassadors, which is, I think, like high school age, 16 or so. But again, the thing about it is, for us, it's free labor, you know?
Well, I guess what we really need to consider is a person to spearhead that sort of, you know, reaching out to different youth, you know, youth organizations, be it, you know, scouts, be it the schools for, you know, service learning. Internship is a little bit tricky, though.
You know what?
Not sure how we would coordinate that.
You can do that through a class. I've done this, I've designed these before. They're not actually that hard to design if you get somebody who's willing to do it. But they're, like you said, you do need somebody to go out. I'm happy to talk to them about it. I'm going out and talking to people about CT 250. But I don't, you know, I'm happy to talk about historic commission tasks because they fall into the same thing over and over again anyway, you know?
Well, I think
But
if
right
you're
now,
willing
I've got, public schools, I've also got scouting that I'm, you know,
Yeah.
as I said, just waiting for calls back, basically,
Yeah.
you know?
And I'm sorry, I had to leave the room for a minute, but what were you thinking in terms of living history?
Actually asking theater programs to see if they could get students to do living history programs for the town. You know, in any event that we held, you could probably do something like that, you know, any historic event.
So all these years, I should have been hitting up a theater to come and do the cemetery walk instead of, you know, beating the
See,
bushes. for-
Cemetery walk, I'll tell you what, at Gettysburg, we had a couple of people who came out, and they were people who died in the battle, and they would give you the program, they would guide you through the cemetery, you know? It's kinda, it's neat that way,
Oh,
and
yeah.
for a lot of people, it's a better way of doing it than having me go out as a historian and saying, and this happened here,
Right.
this is what this is about, you know?
Well, that's why we like doing what we do, right? Yeah. We like bringing history to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, one more thing too, and that is, someone, at some point, I don't mean to sound really negative, but at some point, somebody's gonna have to do something about getting in touch with the Historical Society and opening them up. And frankly, you know, it's a shame that we can't be in touch with folks. I mean, that's a major resource that apparently has a pretty good collection. I just have never seen it with my eyes.
Well, Stuart has tried reaching out. Did you get a response back yet?
No, I didn't. I was at the hospital 2 days ago.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
So I'm a little bit out of it. So I'll see if I can visit.
Oh, no, it's, you know, it's,
Tomorrow, so.
this has been an ongoing, you know, conversation. It's, you know, Soldiers Monument's been talking about it for years, and it's, I don't know what to say.
it's just frustrating, you know, but we should think
Not too
about.
bad,
you know.
Jan was participating and now she sort of dropped off.
Yeah.
And then we were gonna do a sign specifically for her over at the municipal parking lot, which is gonna be next to the Little Red Barn for the history of and they don't even wanna participate in that. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's private, it's a private organization, you know, it doesn't belong to the
Yeah.
town, and so we don't really have much say in it. I think it frustrates anybody who would like to take a tour and see everything. Lynn and I, we're fortunate, we've had 2 tours over the years, but I think we're rarities, so,
Keep reaching out.
yeah, yeah.
I'll be in touch with them probably next week.
Okay, super.
I had an emergency. I was bitten by some wasps, and I was on a IV unit.
Oh, my gosh.
That friend, you know, was,
Wow.
I'm still kind of on Benadryl right now with
Yeah.
Uzi, but,
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. Now I have to carry EpiPens with me.
Yeah, definitely.
No, but I'll be in touch.
Okay, yeah, keep us posted.
Also, I just noticed there's a very nice tree out in the hallway that would probably accommodate most of my collection of equipment.
Okay,
Because this wall behind it, you can hang the photographs.
so you thinking right over here in Town
No,
Hall?
I mean, that's all it would take, really.
Yeah.
The tree is deep enough to accommodate the bellows camera.
Okay.
And some of the other things, I think.
Do you think we could get grant funding for something like secure display cases? Because as far as I could see, Connecticut Humanities did seem to have grants that we could get for equipment that would be supportive of it. And I can see your concerns, I share them, you know, stuff walks away, you can't, you know,
Well,
you
there's a
can't
lot of
tell.
little stuff.
Little things, yeah.
For example,
Right,
Kodak and other companies offering these little vials of film film. And I have them in boxes and simple little tubes of these things that go in there. There are also original envelopes, photographic paper from the 1890s, still unused.
Oh.
And I'd like to exhibit those things.
yeah,
See, the problem is if we got those cases, where would we, like,
Yeah.
where do we call home? You know, we're here in Town Hall. So,
Store in the garage, not the
well,
garage.
you can't store it in the garage.
The shed.
In my experience, there isn't a whole lot of grant money out there for that type of
Okay,
hardware. A lot of the grant money is going toward, programs, building improvements or restoring old buildings. things
Okay.
like
Right.
that. I haven't found, and I've been looking for them.
right.
And
If-
I haven't.
let me,
If you check out the grant page I had for Connecticut Humanities, it says planning grants, it says planning for exhibitions, public programs, planning for interpretive digital media projects. You could not you, but the general, you could probably get something in there. It's a one-to-one matching grant, which would be, you know, the problem would be raising that money. But the thing about it is, at this point, what you're looking at is really an insurmountable obstacle. You know, that we can't display the stuff safely. You know, and so that really, that's a stop sign, right there. We need to be able to do that, and I do think we could make the case for it. You know, if,
well, I have another, you know, thought as
Yeah.
we're discussing this. Lance, is there, like, the town clerk's office has cabinets and storage there. We're compiling historic information, but unlike the Historical Society, we don't have a building. Is there a possibility of us having a room in Town Hall that we
I
could?
could answer that. I have fought for that for a long
Yeah.
time. All these organizations, and especially where you have minutes and everything, and it's in one person's hand. And 5 years later, they retire, they hand it over to somebody else. Some never hand the material over, so I fought for a room, but we've always been so short of a room. It's worth asking the town manager now.
Yeah.
We were hoping to build or add on to the town hall at one point,
Yeah.
and that fell through. It was just too expensive, but I know I was bursting.
All right, yeah, I mean, the other thought is, you know, a room like the room across the hall, where there, you know, would it ever be possible that there could be cases that belong to the Historic Commission, and we display certain things, and when people are in town hall, they have the opportunity to come and see it? I mean, that's another, you know, because I picture something like what Stuart is bringing to the conversation is something that we could have an opening about. You know, you can describe and discuss and talk about the historic significance of this, you know, of this information, and then it's on display, and, you know, I see it as an event that, you know, if we had a place to call home would be nice.
is Whiting Mills ever available for that?
Yeah, they're available for things like that, but again, it lends that security issue.
Right.
That's where the DeMars opening was done years ago, and it was done beautifully. It was a great space for that. But, you know, we're not talking about a display as big as what they had for DeMars. And if you wanna leave it up, like, those are big prints, nobody's gonna walk off with a print on display, but we're talking about smaller items, it would be problematic.
The tree is its own security system.
Mhm.
Everything's locked up in it.
Yeah,
And prints that we display are not worth anything.
they're just prints.
You're done on a computer printer, basically,
Right.
from scans.
So you're talking about right over here in the hallway?
Something like that.
So that would be a recommendation I would make. The commission confiscates that corner because I don't think anybody's the keeper of it right now. It was just a display that was made.
So,
Nobody takes care of
It's
it.
a very nice display right now, but,
Yeah, but it's sagging, it could be changed, which would be nice. And that could be something, that could be a goal, like there's a tangible that we take away.
basically, I could write compose a handout. You know, the objects we just remembered in our case, and a handout with a discussion of 19th century photography process and all the numbered objects identified.
and we could, plan a night when maybe there's nothing going on in this room, so that, the public could come and learn about it and then go see it, something like that.
You want the opening night, the exhibit?
I
'cause
do,
that
I do, I think.
Oh, yeah,
I-
absolutely.
Of course, I picture wine and cheese and, other things that we wouldn't be doing in here, but,
If you advertise there's some kind of photographic exhibit, and then just say, we have free wine, I think you'll probably do all right with it.
oh, I know we
It's-
would,
yeah,
I know we would, yeah.
I'm happy to contribute whatever line or whatever is needed, so.
Well, since we have this big of a budget,
Start
that would be a good place to start.
That's a great takeaway that I think we can make happen right
Yeah, I do think we can make that happen. We actually have an appointment tomorrow morning with the town manager, not regarding the historic commission, but regarding Soldiers Monument. Maybe Terry would be able to say who owns the case or how we coordinate with that. And, I guess she would also be the person to ask about availability for this room. I mean, what do we wanna say, like maybe October? That gives us time to look at, you've already got everything almost ready to roll, right? All right. So,
Just as an alternative as well, if something doesn't happen to work out, I think the college, at this point, you probably have display space in the college.
okay,
They have a very large library. It's a college, so it's made for things like that. It just might be something to fall back on.
all right, I mean, maybe we should,
They may have the tree that tells.
Yeah.
yeah,
They also have, at this point, because virtually every college in the country having plummeting enrollments, they're very interested in getting the public into the building.
so I wonder which would be a more preferable, location, town hall or, college library? I think I've been in there once, to the library. So I can't picture
The town hall has a steady stream of people coming in.
yeah,
That's one thing. Public uses
the
the
building,
town hall.
yeah.
And not to say that the college wouldn't be good.
Well, the college is what do you got, 1,200, 1,500 people in it, or something like that? And during a semester, that's on a daily basis. That's pretty good. It's pretty good visitation for it if you can get into a public space. But the thing about it is, the idea is really what's important. The place, either way, it's okay, but.
You know what might be kind of neat is to get it over, this is at Founders Hall, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
That section?
well, in the library I don't know where,
Oh, okay. But have it on display there, secure, without anybody having to be there. Put a flyer that talks about a program that's gonna be here, and have the program in this room, and then bring that display over to this case out.
well, Founders Hall, I mean, if we were gonna be doing a display at the college, I think you could use Founders Hall. It's big, we did we had the Lincoln program in there when we were, I don't know, how many years ago now, but it filled up. We had a Lincoln interpreter and, so, I don't know, Stuart, any thoughts?
Well, I don't know the college that well. I've never been in it. I don't know if it's there, but I know they have an art department and so on.
thought about that as well.
Yeah.
But I think this is definitely something that would be doable for October. October or November, you know, before we get into the holidays. But let's talk about other locations that you might be interested in. The photographer, have you ever met with them?
No,
I haven't either.
I'm not gonna go on that.
I don't know that they're ever there.
Is that the Little Fox?
Yeah, Little Fox,
We
yeah.
were talking about this EPC. I might be able to get you a connection with somebody.
Okay.
There. But if you sent an email, put it out to all of us, with just kind of maybe what's involved with your display. And then we can maybe see if we can get it, like, promoted in places. To lead up to a talk, I think that'd be kind of cool, and people would probably be into it.
All right. Sounds good. Well, it's getting late, guys, so I'm sure everybody would like to go home. Get some dinner. All right, so, meeting adjourned. I mean, do I have to ask for a motion to?
I motion.
Oh, good. Thank you, Sheila.